Good evening, and welcome to the 1994 NBA Draft at the Hoosier Dome here in Indianapolis, proud and loud home of the NBA's Indiana Pacers. Whose wonderful really do love this game. Also, welcome to those gathered at our team headquarters across the country and to our national audience on TNT and NBA radio. To all of you, thanks for being with us. The team representatives have been briefed, so let's get on with the draft. The first pick in the 1994 NBA Draft will be made by the Milwaukee Bucks, who have 5 minutes to make that selection.
For anyone who has ever played the game of basketball, the ultimate dream is to make it to the NBA. Tonight, 3 of basketball's future superstars take the first step toward realizing their lifelong dreams.
Well, it's always been a dream since I've been a little kid, ever since I've been playing outside on the playground and things. Just knowing all the hard work I did, all the running, all the suicides, and mile and a half and 2 miles. I mean, just all the things that I did. I mean, I think now it's going to finally pay off.
I really didn't realize that I had the God-given talent to be an NBA player until I got into high school. And then from there, I just worked extremely hard, and the hard work's paid off.
Julius Erving, Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, those guys, the people I grew up idolizing and always wanted to play in the league and like those guys. And then now, getting close to that time, I'm real anxious, really excited, and just ready for a challenge.
Not only the capital of Indiana, but for tonight, the basketball capital of the world for the NBA Draft at the Hoosier Dome, nearby, only about a block away from that Capitol building. 20,000 people are gathered here. Fans who are still excited after their team, the Indiana Pacers playoff run, ready to take a look at at least a couple of Indiana players who grew up in Indiana who will be included in this draft. You are looking at some of them there, the top 15 players, many of whom expect to be lottery picks, and who will be walking up to the stage here at the Hoosier Dome any minute now to begin what they hope to be a long and lucrative career in the National Basketball Association. It was only a week ago that the Houston Rockets defeated the New York Knicks in Game 7 to win the NBA championship. As soon as that game was over, the NBA and the Players Association collective bargaining agreement ended. At that time, the NBA went to court to ask the court to allow the NBA and their teams to continue operating under the old agreement until a new one was reached. In the meantime, the players filed a countersuit in court asking that not be allowed. There were talks that this draft would be boycotted. There were talks that some of these top players wouldn't be here. That has not happened. The players are here for this 1994 draft. One other note from the courts. Yesterday, a temporary restraining order was issued against the NBA and the teams, prohibiting any kind of financial adjustment to either rookies or current player contracts. That will mean there will probably be fewer trades involving any kinds of changes in contracts and could affect some of the pre-draft movement here as we get ready for the draft of 1994. But the draft is going on. The teams are getting ready. They are excited about this crop of players who will be entering the 1994 NBA season. And with me, as usual, my colleagues Hubie Brown and Doug Collins. And let's get past the litigation and the information about all of that. I think we've got that set straight now. And let's talk about why we're here. And that is the renaissance of the NBA, the restocking of talent. How do you feel about the 1994 draft?
Well, Bob, it's a time of hope for all these teams that they're going to get better. And you can look at the draft. You've got a lot of underclassmen. Probably 6 of the top 9 picks will be underclassmen. From 10 to 27, it'll be beauty in the eye of the beholders. It could be anybody going those types of in those slots. And there's going to be some trades made later on that maybe some blockbusters that we'll hear about later on in the draft.
Hubie?
Well, I think, Bob, the way to look at it is, first of all, some teams are trying to fill an immediate need. Others are stockpiling talent by picking the best player available, not worrying about a need. Others are saying that there will be a trade during this draft, after the draft, or within the immediate future. And then we have other teams who are picking knowing that they have the inside track on an unrestricted free agent. So many variables come into a pick.
Well, we're just about ready for our first pick. Here's a look at the first 6. Of course, the lottery order is the first 11. Milwaukee, Dallas, Detroit, Minnesota, Washington, and Philadelphia. The Milwaukee Bucks won the big bouquet when they won the lottery back in May during the playoffs, and the Milwaukee Bucks have the first selection in the draft here tonight. And David Stern will be announcing that draft pick for the Milwaukee Bucks. Here's the commissioner of the NBA.
With the first pick in the 1994 NBA draft, the Milwaukee Bucks select Glenn Robinson from Purdue University.
Surprising nobody, the big dog, Glenn Robinson. He went to high school at Roosevelt High School in Gary, Indiana. The 21-year-old Indiana native who left Purdue University early. Some people thought it was because he was struggling academically, but his coach, Gene Keady, said he left here with a B- average. This is a young man who is highly regarded. He is walking out with his agent, that is Dr. Charles Tucker, wearing the cap of the Milwaukee Bucks. And his coach, Gene Keady, thinks that he is a very dependable young man of high moral character and believes that he will be able to step into the fast-paced world of the NBA and begin to make a contribution to the Milwaukee Bucks immediately upon arrival at 6'7", 240, a power player who can play the inside-outside game. The first pick in the 1994 draft is Glenn Robinson from Purdue.
Well, Bob, you take a look here. His size, 6'7", 241 pounds. Look at the points. I think this is the most probably indefensible player in the draft. A dominant scorer, can take it out on the floor, can beat bigger players off the dribble with his quickness, and can post smaller players up. You see his versatility here where he backs a smaller player in, and he shot 38% from the three-point line.
Well, a nice thing also is that he's the College Player of the Year in 1994. The last time that was done at Purdue was 1932 when John Wooden was the Player of the Year, and we all remember John as the Dean of college coaches, and he's also in the Hall of Fame as a player. Not bad company.
We talk about his strengths. There they are. The weaknesses, everybody says this. Can he play defense? Well, he certainly has the talent to, but coming out of college, is it good enough to play in the NBA yet? That's to be answered, but everybody thinks so because he is the #1 draft pick of 1994. And Glenn Robinson is with our Craig Sager.
Well, first of all, the last time you were in this building, you led Roosevelt Gary to the state championship. Welcome back.
Well, it's a great feeling to be here. It just seemed like it was all planned because the last time I was here, it was for the state championship.
Now, a lot of people said that the Players Association had filed a suit saying the draft was illegal. There's going to be a boycott. Why'd you decide to come?
Well, this is something I've been watching all my life. This is something that I wanted to be a part of. And I think no matter how bad that I didn't want to come, I still would have been here.
Now, some people said yesterday you were late for a press conference. Then we found out you were running 2 miles playing another practice game. How are you going to maintain this hunger and desire with all these millions?
Well, I don't think the millions have anything to do with playing. It's just the competitive spirit.
Well, the big dog is now the big buck, as we saw with that sign. But your mom is still the boss. Has Christine met Mike Dunleavy?
Well, my mother is always going to be the boss.
Well, that's your first assignment, to get her up there. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Bob?
Craig Sager and Glenn Robinson, the #1 pick in the draft of 1994. Up next, the Dallas Mavericks. Will it be Jason Kidd? Will it be Grant Hill? Ernie Johnson is in Dallas. There's been a lot of speculation about this #2 pick, Ernie.
There certainly has, Bob, and they're excited here in Dallas because the Mavericks have 3 of the first 28 picks, including that #2 pick, and as you pointed out, there has been debate. Should it be Grant Hill? Should it be Jason Kidd? One of the writers here in Dallas earlier this week said, hey, this is like choosing between Miss Universe and Miss World. You can't go wrong either way. But Jason Kidd appears to be the pick. He's one of the best point guards, probably the best in 10 years to come down the pike. And Dick Motta, the new head coach here, will have him and Jim Jackson and Jamal Mashburn, and hopes are high in Dallas, where they've lost 140 games over the past 2 seasons. And I'm here at the hotel, I might point out, because at Reunion Arena tonight, Julio Iglesias is in concert, so the fans had to move here. I'll update you on Julio as the night goes on. Back to you, Bob.
Okay, Ernie, thank you. Hubie, before we get to that pick, you know Dick Motta very well. What would that mean with, and what have you heard about his feelings about Jason Kidd?
Well, I think that when you look at Jason Kidd, all of Dick Motta's teams from when he was at Chicago, he had Norm Van Leer. When you look at the team in Washington when they won it, he had Tommy Henderson. And then back with the great Dallas teams, you had Derek Harper. So Dick has always had tough, strong, defensive point guards who could make the play. And I think that Jason Kidd fits that mold perfectly. Now, he is an upbeat, up-tempo type of player, and it'll be interesting to see if Dick on cages this young group of talent that he would have down there and allowed him to hit the open floor.
And Doug, there had been speculation that Dallas might surprise us and pick Grant Hill, but as we talked with Grant Hill and his father, he has not interviewed at Dallas.
Yeah, I think that would be a surprise. I think that Grant, obviously a terrific player, but I think for the needs of this team, a young point guard for the next 10 years to run the show, I think Jason Kidd would be a great pick here in Dallas.
It's interesting as we talk about the Dallas Mavericks. Here's a team who could just barely win double digits last year. Can a player like this make enough of a difference with a new coach, Hubie, to win 20, 25 games next year?
Oh, well, absolutely. I mean, first of all, you're coming in with an excellent point guard to play with Jimmy Jackson. Then you still have Mashburn up front. You have Rooks. You developing at the center position. Now, if Tarpley comes back and is in 3/4 of the condition that he was in when he was playing at the height of his, making a name for himself in the NBA, if he can come back, because he had a sensational 2 years over in Greece, that would give them a pretty imposing starting five. And they do have an awful lot of good backup people. Of course, they're going to get better. And I just feel that it's a good pick for the organization. If it happens, you can't go wrong. How can you go wrong if you're going to say you're going to take Jason Kidd or you're going to take Grant Hill and shock the world here?
Not too tough a decision now. Matter of fact, interestingly enough, Dallas has used their entire 5 minutes allotted time for this selection. Let's go now to David Stern.
With the second pick in the 1994 NBA draft, the Dallas Mavericks select Jason Kidd from the University of California.
Jason Kidd. He played high school ball at St. Joseph's of Notre Dame in Alameda, California. He's 21 years old, 6'3", 215 pounds, and most people believe that Jason Kidd is the best point guard to enter the draft since Isaiah Thomas back in 1982. Isaiah, by the way, who is in attendance here at the Hoosier Dome. Jason Kidd, who said after he went in to talk to some of these teams that he would like to lead the team in assists and minutes played and steals and rebounding. Notice that he didn't mention scoring. He feels like he is a true creator, a point guard who can move in and make a team move. You're seeing him shaking hands with a lot of the top 15 of the players here as Jason Kidd comes out to the welcome roar of the crowd here at the Hoosier Dome in Indianapolis. Jason Kidd came to the green room with his mother and father, Steve and Ann, his sisters, Denise and Kim, a family that's very proud of this young man who is now the number 2 pick in the 1994 draft, 6'3", from California.
Bob, the one thing that really jumps out, look the size of this young guy as a point guard. He's also going to be able to slide over and play some other position defensively, but he pushes the ball up the floor. He has tremendously strong hands, quick off the dribble, and he's looking to make the play all the time. A terrific passer, great court vision, and he has, if he stays healthy, an unbelievable career ahead of him.
Well, see, he sees the floor so well, Bob. He has excellent eyesight, and he can deliver the pass. Now, remember, when you look at his talents, he was a 33% three-point shooter, which is kind of surprising because a lot of people question his range. The other factor, freshman of the year in the Pac-10 as a sophomore, the player of the year in the Pac-10. So you know this guy is a guy who suits up and reaches his potential every night.
Led the nation in assists, the all-time Cal leader in steals. Jason Kidd is with Craig Sager.
After winning back-to-back state championships in California, you went to Cal and turned that program around. What do you see in Dallas as your challenge? How do you view the situation with the Mavs?
Well, coming to Dallas, I see the same opportunity that I had at Cal with nobody really recognizing the Cal talents. And I know Dallas has the same opportunity with Jimmy and Jamal, and hopefully with myself. So now I hope I can do the same thing I did at Cal at Dallas.
Hubie and Doug said that Dick Motta is not the type that's going to give you the ball and say, run with it. Does his style conflict with your talents?
No, not at all. Right now, I'm just happy to be here. And hopefully I can talk to Coach Motta, and maybe he will give me the ball, and hopefully I can do what I do best, and that's pass.
Just a couple years ago, you're the high school player of the year. Now you're the #1 pick of the Dallas Mavs. Can you believe all this has happened? When did you dream that this was what you wanted to do and the dream may be realized?
Well, this has always been a childhood dream for myself, but to be living it right now, I can't believe it. And I think after tomorrow, I'll really realize what's happening.
Congratulations.
Thanks a lot.
Back to you, Bob.
Jason Kidd, selected #2 by the Dallas Mavericks. It bears mentioning here that after the college season ended, Jason Kidd was involved in a minor scrape with the law involving a traffic accident, and some people questioned whether or not that would affect the draft status of Jason Kidd. But Ernie Johnson is with Dick Motta in Dallas right now, and we understand that Dick Motta spent some time talking with him. And Ernie, we're all interested in hearing the opinions of Dick Motta about this young man.
Yeah, we'll get into that in just a second here, Bob. And let me tell you, they were ready for this. Jason Kidd, information being mailed out even as we speak to season ticket holders in a cover letter from Norm Sonju, the general manager of the club, explaining how exciting things are going to be now that they've got Jamal Mashburn, Jim Jackson, and now Jason Kidd in the mix here. Let's talk about the questions regarding maybe his character and the off-the-court things that happened. How much of a concern was that for you, Dick?
You had to be concerned. When the balls bounced and we knew we were second, we ran right to the film room and pulled out the highlight film of Jason. And if the draft had been that day, we would have gone down to California in person and tried to sign him. When the incident happened, we had to check it out. And we assured our season ticket holders and fans and people in Dallas that if we selected a person, we would be completely satisfied with all the resources available to us that he fit into the categories that we expect of our athletes.
Now, he talked to Craig Sager, and the question was, are you going to give him the ball and let him run this thing? That's the question of the night, Coach.
Well, if the rebounders will try to find him, I don't think I'll get in his way at all.
Dick Motta, the Dallas Mavericks. We'll be back with more here from Dallas, where Jason Kidd is the newest Maverick. Back to you guys, Bob.
Thank you, Ernie Johnson. He'll be standing by there in Dallas, and with a lot of hard times recently, particularly the last couple of years for the Dallas Mavericks. Reason to look ahead and be excited as Jason Kidd, the 6'3" point guard from California, has gone to the Dallas Mavericks. Coming up next, the #3 pick in the draft, and that will be made by the Detroit Pistons. And the Detroit Pistons only a few years ago were the NBA champions. And I'll remember Doug and Hubie saying, with their aging and with the fact that deals weren't made and things going on, that this would be a team that would fall into the lottery. Well, they did fall into the lottery, and they'll pick third. Let's look, Doug and Hubie, at Detroit. 20 wins last year.
Well, I think that you have to look at the ball club and realize that it was in flux. They lost Lambier early in the season. You had injuries to key personnel, and the ball club just never meshed. The young players struggled, meaning Hunter and Allen Houston. They kind of struggled. And any time that you have 5 to 6 new people on a basketball team, you're hoping that your veteran guys can get it done and pull them over the hump. Unfortunately for them, the injuries to Isaiah, then Lambier, and then Joe Dumars during the course of the season really held them back. But in this pick, they are getting quite an athlete. That's going to solve some of their problems. But let's face it, one guy cannot take them from 20 losses, especially at his size, and then take them all the way.
So the Detroit Pistons hoping to get well as much as they can with their pick in 1994. It's been virtually no surprise. Everybody expecting that it'll be Grant Hill. Let's go to David Stern, the commissioner, and find out.
With the 3rd pick in the 1994 NBA draft, the Detroit Pistons select Grant Hill from Duke University.
Grant Hill being hugged by his mother, Janet, who is a senior partner in a law firm in Washington, D.C. He's also here with his dad, Calvin, the former football player with Dallas, Washington, Cleveland Browns. Dad, a former vice president with the Baltimore Orioles. A tremendous young man, Grant Hill, who is achieving his dream. Grant played high school basketball at South Lakes in Reston, Virginia, suburbs of Washington, D.C. He's 21 years old. 6'8", 230 pounds, ACC Player of the Year, Final Four 2 times, led Duke to its 3rd NCAA championship game in 4 seasons. And Doug Collins, as he goes up to talk with Commissioner Stern, your son Chris plays at Duke and played with Grant Hill, and I know you know him and the family very well. Well, Detroit is getting them a gem right here. Not only a tremendous player, but a guy who's going to give them all the things they need to build their team around. You see his numbers, they don't jump out at you. He's a winner. He plays both ends of the floor. He'll guard the point guard. He'll play the 3 guard or the 3 position. You'll see him handle the basketball. And I really believe this year really helped in the development of Grant, because his first 3 years with a Bobby Hurley and a Christian Laettner and some of these guys, he was a wing player. He ran out on the fast break and he scored mostly off transition. He has now added a jump shot. In his first 3 years at Duke, he had made 5 3-point field goals. Last year he was 39 for 100. And I also say, you know, they talk about his assertiveness. Well, he asserted himself this year and took that team with him to Charlotte in the Final Four. And there you see Calvin Hill on the left and Janet, his mom, on the right. Hubie Brown, in what role do you see him fitting into the Detroit Pistons? Well, he's the type of player that makes everyone else a better player. He was college defensive player of the year as a junior. You're talking about a guy 6'8" who can rebound at the small forward position for you. He can not only defend, but then anytime that the shot clock is going down, he can take you off the dribble. And that is the key to being an outstanding player of the NBA. Can you break the defense down when the clock is inside of 6 seconds, get your shot, or also set up somebody else with the shot clock at 1 or 2 seconds? So for the first time now as a member of the NBA, Detroit Pistons, let's meet Grant Hill.
How can you sit there and tell me you're nervous? All the stuff, going to the Final Four, leading the Duke team, concert pianist, everything you've done, now you tell me how nervous you were.
Well, I'm real nervous. This is a dream come true, and I've been here before in this building and we won, and I'm more nervous now than I was when we won back 4 years ago, but it's a great feeling.
People expect you to be an outstanding player immediately. Comparisons to Scottie Pippen, one of the best players in the league. What pressure do you feel?
I don't feel any pressure at all. I'm just trying to go out there and do what I've done all my life, and that's play basketball, and that's try to win. I don't listen to comparisons. I go out there and try to be Grant Hill and do all I can.
You've been around pro athletes all your life. You've been exposed to big-time athletics. How do you feel now that you're a pro, people asking you for your autograph?
I still can't believe it. It seems like yesterday I was asking all those people for autographs, and now people today are asking me. It's all pretty overwhelming, and it's just a dream come true.
Some people said you were not assertive enough. Doug responded saying, obviously, your last year you stepped forward. How did your role change?
Well, I think my role over the last 4 years changed on each team, and as I became a senior, my role was more to be more assertive and to look to do more, and hopefully we can carry that over to the next level.
How do you fit in with the Pistons?
I think I fit in good. They have a lot of young players, Allen Houston and Lindsey Hunter, and of course Joe Dumars, Terry Mills, and I'm looking forward. I'm very excited. I can't wait to get to Detroit.
First, go see your proud family. They're over there waiting for you.
Thank you.
Craig Sager and Grant Hill. It's obvious that Grant Hill is used to national media pressure. Mike Krzyzewski exposes his players to that, to have to deal with the media. And, of course, with the Final Fours he's been to, you can see that it's not going to be difficult for Grant Hill to deal with the outside pressures of the NBA. Up next, the Minnesota Timberwolves with the 4th pick in the first round of the draft of 1994. Minnesota, the only expansion team that has yet to make it into the playoffs into the NBA. Of course, you already heard after the season ended, it was speculated that the Minnesota Timberwolves were going to move to New Orleans. Now they are going to stay in New Orleans at least one more year, or in Minneapolis one more year. Let's take a look at what's happened so far with this young franchise in their drafts, which started in 1989. And you'll note that only 2, Doug and Hubie, of these players are still with this team.
Well, you see Isaiah Wright, or you see Christian Laettner, and if they can add, like the speculation is they're going to add a Donyell Marshall, who's a terrific small forward. What you want to do in this position is you've got to increase the quality of the talent on your team. And if they're able to get a Donyell Marshall at this position, that's what they're going to be able to do.
Always with young teams, Bob, but you're trying to improve your rebounding, your shot blocking, because in the NBA, you win at the defensive end of the floor. You must take care of your boards. And Donyell Marshall, if he is the pick, is one of the premier scorers in this draft, a great shooter, one of the top shot blockers in this draft. So you're adding a quality player to what you already have, the young people. What they need to do is show people that they can defend and then establish a type of tempo, a style offensively.
So the Minnesota Timberwolves are now ready to exercise their pick. They have used all 5 minutes of their allotted time to make the decision. They're expected to take Donyell Marshall. Of course, there are players like Eric Montross, and there are players like Juwan Howard and others that are available. But we believe, and most people are speculating in Minneapolis, that the player will, in fact, be Donyell Marshall from Connecticut. Very, very wide wingspan, big, long arms, and he could be an impact on this team. Let's find out. Here is Commissioner David Stern.
With the 4th pick in the 1994 NBA draft, the Minnesota Timberwolves select Donyell Marshall from the University of Connecticut.
Donyell Marshall, 6'8.5", 218 pounds. Went to high school in Reading, Pennsylvania. He, too, is 21 years old. Donyell Marshall shaking hands with his friends and relatives. He's here with Stephanie Marshall, his mother, some of his high school friends and relatives, and a very exciting young man out of the University of Connecticut, Donyell Marshall, 6'8.5", and as Hubie told you, a shot blocker in addition to a player who can create his own offense. Some people say they remind him of a young, and I say this is a young Connie Hawkins, that kind of player. Big hands, flails the ball around, and has a lot of good moves inside and outside. The moment in the sun for Donyell Marshall from the University of Connecticut. We'll be back to talk to him and take a look at him in action when we return to the Hoosier Dome in Indianapolis, Indiana. Back to the Hoosier Dome in Indianapolis, Indiana. We've had the first 4 picks of the 1994 draft from Milwaukee, Dallas, Detroit, and Minnesota. Glenn Robinson, the big dog from Purdue. Jason Kidd from Cal. Grant Hill out of Duke. And Donyell Marshall from Connecticut. And Donyell, the most recent draft choice at 6'8.5", 218 pounds. And Doug Collins, you like the track that this young man has been on while in college.
Yes, I sure do. You see his first year, 11 points a game, then to 17 last year, all the way to 25. Shot blocking went from 56 to 111 shot blocks. His rebounds are up. His field goal percentage from 42% to 52% this year. He's getting better and better. You look at his body. He's a long, lean, lanky player right now. He's going to get bigger and stronger.
Big East Conference Player of the Year, Donyell Marshall, is with Greg Sager.
Conference Player of the Year, 2 years after you questioned your ability to play at Connecticut as a freshman. How did your confidence level rise, and why?
I think last summer when I went with the USA team, I was playing with Jason Kidd, Lamar Murray, a lot of the guys that are here now. And I was the leading scorer, second leading rebounder on that team. And once I seen I could do that with those guys, I felt, I could do it with my team, and that's when my confidence started rising.
How do you feel about Minnesota and the Timberwolves?
I feel very good about them. When I visited up there to work out, I liked it. I liked the social life. It wasn't, people didn't hound you. You was able to walk around. And I'm playing with very young people, J.R. Ryder, Christian Laettner, Chris Smith from UConn plays up there. I can't wait to play. And Chuck Person spoke to us yesterday. I can't wait to see him when we get to practice.
Your uncle, Pro Football Hall of Famer Lenny Moore, said, "Never lose your humble personality." What effect has that advice had on you?
I think it had a lot of effect on me because keeping that humbleness, I was able to keep my friends that I had for a very long time. They still respect me. I still respect them, and they don't look at me as a superstar going to the NBA. They still look at me as a regular person, and that's the way I like to be looked at by my friends. I don't want them to treat me any different than the way I would have been treated if I was just a regular person.
Don't change. Let's go back to Bob.
Very personable young man, Donyell Marshall. You'll get used to knowing him as he plays with the Minnesota Timberwolves. Up next now, the Washington Bullets. And now we're getting to where you're not exactly sure who these teams are going to pick, even after the first four. But the fifth pick, most people are speculating perhaps Juwan Howard out of Michigan. Let's find out from David Stern.
With the fifth pick in the 1994 NBA draft, the Washington Bullets select Juwan Howard from the University of Michigan.
So no surprises so far for the first five selections. Juwan Howard. He's 21 years old, played his high school basketball at Chicago Vocational. Steve Fisher, his coach, and the man who recruited the Fab Five at Michigan, and they are going fast.
And this was the first recruit of the Fab Five, and I think he's one of the stabilizing factors of that Fab Five unit. An excellent low post player, very fundamentally sound. His numbers, Hubie, every year, 11 points to 14 to almost 21 this year. Field goal percentage, almost 56% this year. So this is a very, very sound fundamental player who should be a very nice piece again to that Washington Bullet puzzle. You look at Don McClain now, you look at Gugliotta, Calbert Chaney, Rex Chapman. If they can get some play from Duckworth in the middle, this could be a team that gets better in a hurry.
No, I agree with you, because this guy at 6'9", 250 can hold his spot. And in the NBA, that's the key at power forward. Can you hold your area and rebound in traffic? And when they do hit you on the post, do you have the offensive moves to score? And he has the package.
Well, this is a young man whose draft stock went up significantly with his play in the NCAAs, where he averaged 29 points a game and really drew a lot of national attention. He had been less popular and less famous than Chris Webber and then even Jalen Rose. But Juwan Howard now goes to the Washington Bullets, and here are the vitals. Ninth leading scorer in the NCAA tournament history at 280 points. He's 6'8.5", the first power player to go in this draft of 1994.
Yeah, and you see his moves around the basket, too. He's a guy that can catch the ball. He plays with his back to the basket. He's got nice, soft hands. He'll rebound the ball and follow it up here with a nice power dunk. And he plays with energy and emotion, and you really like that in your big people. Can step out on the floor. Does not have three-point range, probably about 15 to 17 feet. He only made one college three-point shot, so he's going to operate within 15 feet.
Hubie, as we look at his strengths and weaknesses here, how does he fit in with Washington? You know, they've got problems with injuries to Purvis Ellison. Duckworth has been a disappointment with Washington. How does this young man step in?
Yeah, but you're hoping that Duckworth and then Murasan at the center position will play big, and then you have the luxury of a Gugliotta, a Howard, and McClain, because Gugliotta can play both sides. So what you're doing is you are building your front court strength. That's what we said at the top of the show. Don't worry about duplication. Let's get quality and form competition.
Let's meet Juwan Howard now. He's with Craig Sager.
Well, Juwan, you were raised by your grandmother who passed away as you left high school. You went to Michigan, found a new family. How tough was it to leave that family to go to the NBA?
Well, it was hard. You got to make big changes in life, and there are times when you have to make big decisions. And that was a big decision for me, and now it's time for me to move on in my life. Now, the people at the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor, they're going to miss me, and I'm going to miss Ann Arbor, but I'm still going to go back and treat it like home for me.
As for Washington, you played center at Michigan, probably playing forward now. How do you adapt to that transition period when changing positions?
Well, I have no problem with it at all. First of all, it's going to start in practice. Certain things and certain players, have to adjust to situations like that. And I'm one of those guys who's willing to work and do whatever it takes to help, Washington Bullets a better and great team.
Sounds like you're ready to me. Good luck. Let's go back to Bob.
Juwan Howard from the University of Michigan, the first draft pick in 1994, went to Milwaukee. They took the big dog, Glenn Robinson, from Purdue University. And we have Mike Dunleavy standing by to chat with us in Milwaukee. Mike, thanks first of all for joining us. And let me ask you right away, what was the deciding factor for Glenn Robinson? Have you known all along? When did you folks decide that he was going to be your man?
Well, the thing is that, you know, we had a number of players in to test their skills, to meet them, to see, you know, how their personalities would fit in with our team, with our coaching staff. And all the guys we had in were terrific, great characters, and terrific athletes, and are going to be terrific players in this league. But we felt for our needs that Glenn was the player. First of all, he's got great ability to score the ball, and any team who's in a rebuilding mode needs a player that you think has a chance to be a star in the future. And we think his scoring ability, he averaged 30 points a game last year. He's the player of the year, that he can carry that forward in the NBA and give us that kind of play on the court.
Mike, does Glenn Robinson give you the kind of guy, too, the versatility as a forward that you can play him in either position and then be able to take advantage of his quickness maybe against a bigger player or his size against a smaller player?
Well, I think that he has he's really the perfect size for a small forward in this league. But what makes him so dangerous is his ability to go outside and to play inside. There are a lot of small forwards in this league who are quick, who are smaller, and he can take all those guys, I think, inside and post them up. And then there are going to be guys that are big at small forward in this league. And those are the kind of guys, yes, that he can take outside. He can play one-on-one. You can put him in pick and rolls. He can make outside shots. He can come off the screens and make jump shots. So, we plan to use his versatility against, the teams, however they defend him. I think he's got ways of getting around that defense.
Mike, at 18, now that you have Robinson, along with Vinny Baker up front, do you still look big before going outside?
Well, I think, first of all, sure. I mean, from our needs standpoint, we would like to get a big, but at 18, you really are best off taking the best player available, because the main thing is you want to get somebody who can play in this league. And I think that's the most important thing, is to get a player, and you get the best player. And if you've got somebody and you're stacking guys up, you'll be able to move somebody or do something that will help you.
Thank you, Mike Dunleavy. We'll hopefully join you a little bit later, get you to make some comments on this overall draft, and not just your player and how you're going to use them up there in Milwaukee. Up next now, the Philadelphia 76ers. And the 76ers, of course, had Sean Bradley last year. They had a good draft choice a couple of years ago in Clarence Weatherspoon. And will they get stronger up front? They have a new general manager and coach in John Lucas. Let's find out what the Sixers do. Here's David Stern.
With the 6th pick in the 1994 NBA draft, the Philadelphia 76ers select Sharon Wright from Clemson University.
Sharon Wright, who is here with us at the Hoosier Dome, hugging his mother, Carolyn, with Art Cummings, Virgil Adams, some of his relatives and friends who have traveled with him here. The young man from Clemson University, 6'10", 280 pounds. He is a load. I've seen him personally play in the ACC, as I know Doug and Hubie have too, and this is a man in terms of his size. He played his high school basketball at Southwest Macon in Georgia, and that is a school that's developed a lot of great college players and several pros like Norm Nixon. Jeff Malone came out of that high school, and Sharon Wright, now realizing his dream out of Clemson University, goes to the Philadelphia 76ers. And I understand that what Philadelphia probably will do is move him in at the power forward, even though he played center at Clemson. Sean Bradley at the center, and perhaps move Weatherspoon over to the quick forward spot, which sounds like a pretty imposing front line.
Well, if that team can play together, if Sharon Wright can make that adjustment and play power forward with Sean Bradley's size and the power and the explosiveness of Weatherspoon, there should be no team out-rebound this team. They're powerful. Sharon Wright has really jumped his stock. He's in the best shape that I've seen him in the last 2 years. He hired a personal trainer. He's got back to the basket moves. You see this, the little jump hook. And he's played against terrific competition down there at Clemson. If you look at the history of the Clemson big men that have gone into this draft, if you want to talk about the Tree Rollinses and the Larry Nances and the Dale Davises and the Horace Grants, the history of Clemson players is they've become very, very good NBA low post people.
Well, Doug, he's the only player in the ACC over the last 2 seasons to average a double-double for 2 years, and that's hard to do. Plus, he is a major shot-blocking force. He averages 4 shot blocks a game. So when you put Bradley and Wright together, you are starting with 2 good young big people at your center and big forward positions.
And now let's go to Craig Sager and meet Sharon Wright.
Well, you're now Philadelphia's #1 pick. As you sit up here and think back, where did this all begin for you?
I think for the most part, it started back in Macon, Georgia. When I was just a kid, and a guy by the name of Miles Patrick used to come to the gym and just pick me up and take me to the court and just basically kick me in the teeth. And I really learned from all my coaches and my family, my mom, my brother, grandmother. They all supported me, and I just kept going.
Philadelphia expects an immediate contribution. What pressure do you feel? How do you prepare physically and mentally?
Well, I think the game is just so physical and so long. You play 82 games, and I think with Philadelphia, I think they need a guy that can really just go to the boards and block a lot of shots and be an intimidator in the middle. I think the game has changed so much that I think you just got to really be mentally prepared. That's the most part.
What about the adjustment to forward, now playing away from the basket? What skills do you need to develop?
My mid-range jumper, has to get better, I think. I've been working on it a lot, running a lot of miles and shooting the ball pretty good. And I think that was one of the things that Philly really liked about me. I could shoot the ball, and I really didn't shoot it that good or that much in practice and in games at Clemson, but I've been working on it, and that was one of the things I think they liked about me.
Good luck. Sharon Wright goes to the Philadelphia 76ers. Coming up next, the Los Angeles Clippers, as we continue our coverage of the draft live from Indianapolis.
Back to the Hoosier Dome in Indianapolis. The draft of 1994. 5 of the first 6 picks have been underclassmen. It is an underclassmen loaded lottery. Let's find out what the Los Angeles Clippers do. Here's David Stern.
With the 7th pick in the 1994 draft, the Los Angeles Clippers select Lamont Murray from the University of California.
Lamont Murray played his high school basketball at Kennedy High in Fremont, California. He too is 21 years old, and you can say one thing about this young man: he has a great stroke. Jason Kidd knew it as the point guard. He finished as Cal's all-time leading scorer, passing Kevin Johnson's 1,600 points, led the Pac-10 in scoring last year, and set the Cal single-season record for scoring. He is 6'6.5", 236 pounds. Lamont Murray from the University of California. And Murray is here with his relatives, his parents, James and Fora Murray. You saw Fred Slaughter, his agent there, his Aunt Patricia with him, and some other friends and players who were there. Matter of fact, LaSalle Thompson, Lester Connor, and Kenny Williams joined him, NBA players who were there to welcome Lamont Murray to the Los Angeles Clippers.
Well, I like the fact they need a small forward. Dominic Wilkins, an unrestricted free agent. Also Ron Harper, unrestricted free agent. Here, you're getting a guy who broke the Cal scoring record in 3 years. He is a pure shooter. He has three-point range, and he also can take his strong to the basket. So you're dealing with a guy who wants to score and has the capability of shooting a high percentage. And that's the key when you take a guy like this. I think it's an excellent pick for the Clippers.
Doug Collins, as a 6'6" shooter yourself, he looks like he has a great stroke.
Yes, he does, and I think you see that he has tremendous explosiveness off the floor when he shoots that shot. So I think in a short period of time, he'll be able to develop the NBA range. It is a deeper shot, but you see with his legs that he should be able to get that shot in a very short period of time.
Craig Sager is now with Lamont Murray. Let's meet the new Los Angeles Clipper.
Well, nobody knew exactly where you would be drafted, but you told me you wanted to stay in California. How does it feel to go to the Clippers staying in California?
It feels great, you know, close to home, just down south. I'm from up north, but I have a lot of family in L.A., so I'll be right at home with the Clippers.
Hubie said this is an excellent pick for the Clippers. How do you feel you fit in with that team?
Well, I feel that whatever the Clippers need me to do, score, defend, anything they need me to do, I'm willing to do it. You know, I'm just happy to be selected and ready to start work.
As you make this next step to the next level, any apprehension, anything you're worried about your game, something you have to work on?
Well, no, I don't think I'm worried about much right now. I'm working on my overall game all summer long, so I'll be ready when training camp starts.
You ready to guard some of those great small forwards in the NBA?
Oh, yeah, I'm ready to get busy. I'm ready to guard the Scottie Pippens of the league and just get started.
Okay, congratulations. Back to the set.
Lamont Murray, who will be joining the Los Angeles Clippers. Up next, the Sacramento Kings. Like the Clippers, the Kings have had a lot of early draft choices, yet have been unable to move into the playoffs and win consistently in the last several years. So let's take a look at Sacramento and see what they need as a team to try to move forward. Only 28 wins last year. Our team needs, presented by AT&T.
Well, as you look at it there, naturally the Hurley situation at the point guard, but they have Spud Webb. You can see that they need starting talent in order to move up the line. This team has been not in the playoffs for the last 8 straight seasons, so you need quality personnel. And in order to do that, it has to be power people up front. It'll just be interesting to see which way they go. Do they go for a center, possibly an Eric Montross or a Mobley, or do you go for a big forward like in Grant out of Xavier? There are many available guys here. It will just be to see the interest of this ball club, which way they'll head.
Interestingly, with the variety of talent in the draft this year and the equality of a lot of the talent, already we're getting into a place to where it's really tough to tell exactly where they're going to go.
Yeah, this is where the draft starts getting, a little, you're not really sure. We were basically pretty sure up to 8. I think that right now probably the pick is going to be either Brian Grant from Xavier, who led his team in rebounding 4 straight seasons. The only other person to ever do that was Tyrone Hill, who now is playing for the Cleveland Cavaliers. So I think it would be Brian Grant or Montross, probably leaning to Brian Grant. Big wingspan, 6'8.5", 250 pounds. And he could really improve their front line, but so could Montross.
Well, let's find out what happens as we go back up to the stage here at the Hoosier Dome in Indianapolis, and the commissioner, David Stern, ready to make the announcement as the Sacramento Kings have not used their entire 5 minutes. They had about 1 minute and 20 seconds left, but they've made their decision. Here's David Stern.
With the 8th pick in the 1994 NBA draft, the Sacramento Kings select Brian Grant from Xavier University.
Brian Grant is not here in the Hoosier Dome, but Brian Grant from Xavier has really moved up in the postseason camps, and a lot of people around America will not know this young man. He's really the first player selected so far whose name has not been very popular among college basketball fans. But as you take a look, this is a man who can come in and contribute right away from Xavier.
We have to look at him and realize he's the conference player of the year for the last 2 years. He's a rebounder, a shot blocker, an excellent defender. He's well coached. Pete Gillen turns out excellent front court players. When they come out of the stable, they usually make it in this league. Now you're looking at him. He's a very humble young man, but he's got a package, and they need it. Remember now, Wayman Tisdale is a unrestricted free agent this year, coming out of Sacramento also.
So Brian Grant of Xavier is the pick of the Sacramento Kings. He is a man. A lot of people say that he reminds them a little bit of a young Horace Grant, and those indeed are high words of praise. We'll be back to the Hoosier Dome in Indianapolis in just a moment. Next team up, the Boston Celtics. 20,000 people gathered at the Hoosier Dome in downtown Indianapolis, Indiana for the draft of 1994. Glenn Robinson, the first player chosen, went to Milwaukee. Jason Kidd to Dallas, and Grant Hill to Detroit are the top 3. And we're now awaiting the 9th selection for the Boston Celtics. The Boston Celtics, a team that has been devastated by retirement and age. And let's see if they go big and inside. Here's David Stern.
With the 9th pick in the 1994 NBA draft, the Boston Celtics select Eric Montross from the University of North Carolina.
Eric Montross from the University of North Carolina is an Indianapolis native, was supposed to be here in the green room, but is not with us in this building tonight. But Eric Montross has impressed a lot of people even after leaving North Carolina. Hubie, I know that some of the folks who looked at him thought this young man might be better than earlier thought.
Yeah, first of all, the size is there. He's 7 foot, he's 275. Other factor, he shoots well with either hand. Throughout his entire college career, he shot 58% from the floor. Now, he does not have explosive jumping ability, but you can see the frame. It is there. He's an excellent post-up guy. He's a terrific person with great hands and changes ends very quickly for a big man.
So Boston with the retirement of Kevin McHale. Larry Bird's gone now from that great front line. Robert Parrish may be gone soon. And Eric Montross could be the man of the future. Doug, your reaction to this?
Well, you know, I've seen this young guy play a lot, and he is big. And when you get behind him, you don't get around him. And I think the one thing that Hubie said, he has tremendous hands. You can lob the ball up, he can catch it. He can finish around the basket. I think he got a bad rap of being this plodding player. He can change ends of the floor, and I think he's going to be one of these North Carolina guys who also goes, and because he's had such great coaching, will continue to get better and better. Remember, he plays on a team that usually has 6 or 7 of the top players coming out of high school every year.
Let's talk about Boston a little bit and how Eric Montross can fit in there and what the Boston Celtics are looking forward to. They're still in negotiations with Chris Ford, their coach, so we don't know exactly what his future there is as we do the draft right now. Chris Ford should be there next year, and we're expecting that. But, Hubie, let's talk about the Boston Celtics, the changes that are going on there, and what you might expect.
Well, first of all, you must solidify the center and power forward positions. First of all, Parrish is retiring. A.C. Earl will be in his second year next year. Now you bring in Montross. All right, then at the big forward, Abdel Nabi will be there all year long. Dina Raja had a sensational rookie year out of Yugoslavia, so that would be fairly solid. The small forward position, they're supposedly close to finalizing Fox, but it is not final as of yet. They did not sign the contract. Now, Gamble is also an unrestricted free agent. I see that they just tied up D. Brown. But as you look at them, you know, your defense always starts in the backcourt. They have 2 small guards in D. Brown and in Douglas, Sherman Douglas. So their guard core must get bigger and tougher defensively, because then that takes the pressure off of the people up front that they're always not covering for your mistakes. So they must get better defensive play back there, and then up front, Montross will, fortunately, you know, when you get picked this high, you always want the chance to play, and you are going to get a chance, you know, Eric Montross.
You talk about what goes around comes around, and how the winds of change everything. The Boston Celtics, the Los Angeles Lakers, the Detroit Pistons, all champions in the 80s, all in the lottery now. And the Los Angeles Lakers are the next team up to draft. And let's talk a little bit about the Los Angeles Lakers. Magic Johnson recently, as you probably heard, bought a piece of the team and is going to be in an ownership position there with Jerry West and Jerry Buss. And they have a new head coach, Indell Harris.
Well, when you look at the Laker team, this is a team that has some options. And you look on their front line, you talk about a Vlade Divac, and Eldon Campbell, a Sam Bowie. They drafted George Lynch last year. You go to the backcourt with Sedale Threatt, with Anthony Peeler, with Doug Christie, with Van Exel. And there's some talent there. Right now it gets interesting. There's some speculation that Carlos Rogers from Tennessee State, the 6'10 player, lanky guy, went out there and had a great workout. They've talked about him. We're talking about possibly a Jalen Rose. Yeah. They were really surprised at how big and strong Jalen Rose was. Maybe an Eddie Jones from Temple. So now it starts getting interesting. But it seemed like today, the people I talked to, that Jerry West and his people were leaning towards Carlos Rogers.
What do you think about the Lakers and their direction?
Well, I think the thing that hurt the Lakers last year, you had many older players that were always injured. So right now you have free agents. You have Kurt Rambis, Danny Shays, James Edwards. That's going to free up a lot of money for them. Then also you still have players like Campbell and Divac, etc., and then Sedale Threatt in the backcourt. But all of their young guys have potential and talent, but none of them shoot a high percentage. And I think that they played in so many close games that they would end up losing them because of their inability to make the big shot under pressure. Now, we realize that James Worthy is also still there at the small forward position. So they could go any number of ways here, and I don't think it would be surprising to us.
Just before we go up to the commissioner, Hubie, a comment from you about Del Harris and the style we might see from him.
I know Del's always been a very solid defensive coach at Houston and with the Milwaukee Bucks. You go back and look at their teams, very sound. They always made the playoffs. He's a changing defensive type of a guy. So when you play against his teams, they will give you different looks. They will pick you up at different areas of the floor. And that's always good when you have a lot of young players. And they do have the quickness at L.A.
Well, let's find out what the Los Angeles Lakers are going to do. Here's David Stern.
With the 10th pick in the 1994 NBA draft, the Los Angeles Lakers select Eddie Jones from Temple University.
Eddie Jones, who is with us here in the Hoosier Dome from Temple University. You see him there with E.J. and Francis Thigpen. His family has joined him here in Indianapolis. And Eddie Jones, a two-guard small forward at Temple University, known for his defensive play too, 6'6", 190 pounds. Atlantic 10 Player of the Year. Ranked third in the conference in scoring, second in steals, seventh in block shots at 6'6". So Eddie Jones, an excellent athlete, and we keep saying athlete, but coming out of Temple, is there anything we can read from the kind of player that he'll come out of there, or from coming out of that program?
I really like Eddie Jones. I've seen him play many times. I've seen him play in person. Long arms, a rangy player, has range on his shot, will take you off the dribble, will offensive rebound. You look at his frame, he's going to get bigger and stronger. I think this is an excellent pick. And in the Laker mold, they've always liked that multi-dimensional athlete that maybe can play a couple positions, and he's that kind of player. Maybe big guard, maybe small forward. But again, the key Hubie talked about, he can cover people out on the floor too. He's a good defender.
Played the perimeter-oriented offense at Temple. A lot of three-point shots there. How about NBA three-point range?
Well, I think that will come. Let's face it, it's almost 4 feet deeper for them. And they all have an adjustment. I don't care how good they shot it at the college level. But this guy is quick. He is explosive. He can take you off the dribble. He can break you down and get his own shot. And the thing that you like about him is he can defend. And that is a key issue here when you take a guy of this caliber. He shot 47% at Temple. I like it. I think this is a great pick for the Lakers.
Let's meet Eddie Jones of Temple. He's with Craig Sager.
Well, 2 years ago, you were coming off the bench for John Chaney. Now you're the #1 pick of the Lakers. How'd you make that transition, and how'd you get your confidence level up?
I think you have a great coach in John Chaney. You know, he's a motivator. He stays on you all day long. I mean, hey, he motivates me.
What about the Lakers? How do you fit in?
Hey, I think I can fit in great down there. You know, they got a lot of young talent down there. You know, I just want to go in and do whatever I can do for the team.
Our analysts are talking about your game. Offensively, you shoot from the outside, follow your shot, defense, steals, also block shots. What part of the game do you like the best?
I like it all. You know, I love to run through the lanes and, you know, get steals. I like the up-tempo type of offense. You know, anything. You know, whatever needs for me to do, I'll do it.
Del Harris likes to play defense. Do you like to play defense?
Hey, I come from a defensive playing team. I got to play defense.
Okay, congratulations to the Los Angeles Lakers. And that's a look at the top 10. The 11th pick belonging to the Seattle Supersonics is next as we continue our coverage from Indianapolis. Stay tuned.
The Seattle Supersonics, certainly one of the most talented teams in the NBA, made it into the lottery thanks to a deal that got them the 11th pick from Charlotte. So that's why Seattle is picking at number 11. And Doug, let's talk about this. Been a lot of talk about trade discussions between the Chicago Bulls and the Seattle Supersonics.
Yes, this could be a blockbuster if they decide, if Chicago does make the deal and send Scottie Pippen to Seattle for Sean Kemp and Ricky Pierce. There's also talk that they're going to switch possibly 21 and 11. So at this pick, if Seattle makes this pick, they could be making it for Chicago if that trade would go through. It could be a major, major deal, maybe the biggest trade in the NBA since Charles Barkley a couple seasons ago went from Philadelphia to Phoenix. Now, we don't know where that trade is done or not, but we'll just have to wait and see. So this pick might not go to Seattle. It might go to Chicago.
Seattle Supersonics picking at number 11, and the Supersonics have re-signed George Karl. They have made changes in the front office there. This could affect, I would think, Hubie, some of the decision-making perhaps, although George Karl is pretty good at personnel decisions too.
Well, yeah, I mean, he's been around the league, plus he understands his team, and also you have no idea what problems you have as a coach when you're outside of that city. You know, and we're all trying to look at this and say, well, you're giving up Kemp and Pierce and you're switching picks if it happens, but you are getting one of the top 2 or 3 players in this league in Scottie Pippen if this comes down.
All right, let's find out who the Seattle team will draft, and let's go to David Stern.
With the 11th pick in the 1994 NBA draft, the Seattle Supersonics select Carlos Rogers from Tennessee State University.
Carlos Rogers not with us tonight at the Hoosier Dome. 6'10", 214 pounds from Tennessee State. He dominated the Ohio Valley, as you see, for the second consecutive year. This is a young man who a lot of people think is an excellent talent, and as you see at 6'10", 214, light as a power forward.
Well, I think the big question mark here is can he come into the NBA at this size, meaning the weight factor, and dominate? Now, he did in the Valley. You saw that the points are there, the rebounding and the shot blocking, astronomical numbers. But in Chicago, in the workouts, he has to prove that he can do this against quality big people. So there's going to have to be here a major adjustment for him from a physical standpoint. He's going to have to bulk up, but the tools are there.
Doug, your feelings on Carlos Rogers and how he'll fit in?
Well, I think what Hubie talked about, consistency, doing it night in and night out, 82 times a year, not picking and choosing when you're going to compete, because we know the young man has talent, obviously, to go this high in the draft. So the potential is there, the ability to do it every night.
And let's just remind you once again that, in fact, Chicago and Seattle may be pulling off a trade. We don't know that for sure, but Pippen could be going there for Kemp and Pierce, and also a swap of draft picks. So Carlos Rogers might not stay at Seattle. I will mention one thing about Carlos Rogers in Tennessee State. How about the alums that have come out of there? Dick Barnett, a man you're very familiar with, Truck Robinson,
hey, wait
Anthony Mason.
When we won a championship in Kentucky, we had a terrific point guard.
The Hound Dog.
The Hound Dog, Teddy McClain. 6'3", 195, could guard anyone.
Tennessee State, they can certainly put out some players. That's the lottery picks, 1 through 11. Let's recap them for you. The big dog, Glenn Robinson from Purdue, Jason Kidd to Dallas, Grant Hill to Detroit. No surprises through the first 5. Danielle Marshall from Connecticut went to Minnesota. Michigan's Juwan Howard to the Washington Bullets, where he'll play power forward there. The first 11, the lottery choices, Sharon Wright to Philly. He'll join Sean Bradley and Weatherspoon up on that front line. Lamont Murray, the all-time leading scorer in the history of University of California, goes to the Clippers. Brian Grant, who's a power player, goes to the Sacramento Kings. Eric Montross, who's impressed following the season and his workouts, goes to the Boston Celtics as they try to replace the aging front line. And Eddie Jones, a defensive-minded 6'6" guard from Temple, goes to the Los Angeles Lakers for defensive-minded Del Harris. And the 11th pick, concluding the lottery selections, Carlos Rogers to the Seattle Supersonics. Carlos Rogers at 6'10", but only 214 pounds from Tennessee State. He is a power forward, and as we mentioned, a slight and slim body, but a man that a lot of people are expecting to perform right away and make a contribution. Coming up next, the Miami Heat, a team that gave Atlanta all they could handle in the first round of the playoffs, and a team that finished strong in the NBA to make the playoffs, one of the expansion teams. The Heat will be coming up next with their selection. You can see 2 minutes until they make their selection. And let's talk a little bit about the Miami Heat. Doug, I got to see them in that playing Atlanta as they got finished with the playoffs, and it's a good team. Kevin Lockery has been re-signed down there. Stability at the coaching position.
Well, the 42-40 record record is deceiving, because had not Ronnie Cycli got hurt, that could have been a 50-win team. When he went out, they really lost his inside presence. But you talk about Ronnie Cycli and John Sally on the front line. You got Matt Geiger, who gives them a prayer. You've got Grant Long. You talk about Glenn Rice, Steve Smith. I mean, they have a very talented team. So whatever they're going to do here is add to their talent pool. It's what QB talked about before. Do they need a specific position? I don't think so, unless maybe they might lose a Brian Shaw. Maybe they need a true point guard. But we'll have to wait and see. There's some quality people left on the board. This is a very talented team that I think grew up a little bit in the playoffs this year.
Let's talk a little bit about the point guards. Jason Kidd, everybody said no-brainer, probably the best one since Isaiah in '82. After that, when you get into the point guard areas, it's obviously tough along with center to come into the league and play there. Can you draft a point guard at this point with great quality, do you think?
Well, I think what it comes down to is so many college teams play the passing game. High school and college play the passing game. Player now graduates, comes into the NBA. First of all, he's restricted with the 24-second clock. Teams are playing continuity offenses, not the passing game. And then they're asking guys to make passes as people are coming off the screens at the right precise moment. For the first time in a point guard's life, he's asked to play an NBA type of a game. So it's very difficult on point guards. They have to understand the clock. They must understand that when the clock is down, how to beat people off the dribble, and you've got to have that explosive step. And the big key with a point guard is if he's a good foul shooter. He can make a lot of things happen for you, deliver the pass, but if he gets fouled, go to the foul line. Very difficult position, and in this year's draft, no matter how much they talk about it, this is a weak point guard draft. And that's just my opinion. I think that it's a power forward, a center, and a two-guarders, small. But the least talent that we have here of NBA quality stepping in and taking a team to the playoffs is at the point guard.
Charlie Ward, Khalid Reeves. Reeves, of course, can play both positions, but those are possibilities there for the Miami Heat. And Miami's Kevin Lockery knows he needs a true point guard. So whether they'll go that way or not, I'm not sure.
Well, I think Reeves is a very strong possibility. Remember, Jalen Rose now is still on the board.
That's true. Right.
And this is a multi-dimensional player. And you've also got Pietkowski, Person. There's some really good players still there.
Pietkowski and Person, both great perimeter shooters. And we're ready now with Hubie with David Stern. Let's go to David Stern.
With the 12th pick in the 1994 NBA draft, the Miami Heat selects Khalid Reeves from the University of Arizona.
This young man, Khalid Reeves from the University of Arizona, 6'1.5", 205.5 pounds. He was all Pac-10, second in the conference in scoring to Lamont Murray. You know how much he can fill it up. Set the school record for points in the season, and a lot of people feel that Khalid Reeves can play both positions.
Well, that's always easy to say, until they have to do it. Joe Dumars came in and did it on both sides while he was one of the premier, I think he was fourth in the history of scoring. Now, this young man scored over 800 points this year. That is a ton. Now, we're talking over 25 points a game. He shoots a high percentage, but he has always played as an off guard. So if you're saying that he's going to step in here now, Brian Shaw being a free agent, and then just automatically assume the point guard position, it's going to be difficult to do. But you do have Steve Smith there. You have Bimbo Cole. I know what they're looking for. They're looking for a guard who can shoot with a high percentage, and this young man can do that.
It's interesting, you want to talk about transition. Think about Penny Hardaway. I mean, here's a man who they thought would step right in and be a point guard, and he had a very difficult time, as great as he was this year, making the transition. As we look at Khalid Reeves, let's watch him in action. Good penetration move.
Powerful player. He has the ability to take contact and finish. He shot 264 free throws this year in 35 games, which is a lot for a college player. He has three-point range. For his career, he shot 38% from the three-point line. He had 85 threes this year. I think that the thing that will maybe make up for his lack of height is his power. He has a very strong body. He has been compared to Joe Dumars. If they have gotten that kind of player, they've got themselves a winner.
Khalid Reeves played high school basketball for Christ the King in Queens, New York. He's 21 years old. Let's meet Khalid Reeves. He's with Craig Sager.
Well, Bob mentioned your high school career. The last time you were in Indianapolis, you were the MVP of the McDonald's High School All-American game. 4 years later, the #1 pick of Miami. I guess dreams do come true.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Indianapolis has always been good to me. The McDonald's game was great, and I'm going to a great organization in Miami. I love the coaches. I love just the owners, and I had a great time on my visit. I'm glad to be a Miami Heat player.
We talked about point guard. We talked about off guard. Hubie mentioned Joe Dumars. How do you see yourself fitting in?
I see myself playing both positions. I think that I'm equally as gifted playing both positions. I'm glad just to be out on the court and doing things I love to do, creating shots for others and creating shots for myself, and I'm just glad to be in Miami Heat.
Glad to be in the warm weather after playing in Arizona?
I love the warm weather. It's going to be adjustment. The humidity is high in Miami, but I think I love it out there.
This is one man awfully happy to be Miami Heat, and obviously they're happy to have you. Congratulations. Let's look at the first dozen. Coming up next, the Denver Nuggets with pick number 13 as we continue our coverage live from the Hoosier Dome in Indianapolis. Stay with us.
Miller Genuine Draft, the official sponsor of the 1994 NBA Draft. This is the 7th year that Miller Genuine Draft has sponsored the annual NBA Draft from the Hoosier Dome in Indianapolis. These folks are still excited about the great playoff run that their Indiana Pacers made. They certainly gave the Knicks a handful and eliminated Atlanta in the playoffs. And now the Indiana Pacers are certainly making a niche here in Indiana. High school basketball is so strong, and of course with Indiana University and Purdue, it took them a while to get going. And they also remembered the great Indiana Pacers teams of the old ABA days. But things are going strongly here in Indianapolis. The excitement about the draft here out on the streets in downtown Indianapolis was really something the last couple of days. A lot of outdoor exhibits and booths and baskets and people shooting hoops, and you'd think it was the All-Star game and not the draft because there are so many folks who have gathered here for this. 20,000 in the Hoosier Dome. Now, we were talking about who's coming up next. It is Denver and followed by New Jersey. The Denver Nuggets also made a great, speaking of playoff run, made an outstanding playoff run. They have used their allotted 5 minutes. The Denver Nuggets will be up next to select. And Denver, we were talking about speculation there. Do they go big? Do they go for a guard?
Well, you know, they could use a backup center behind Mutombo. There's Yinkadare out there. There's a Mobley out there right now. They could go a point guard to back up a Robert Pack, maybe move Rauf over to the shooting guard. Jalen Rose is out there. You could possibly draft him. A Piatkowski. There's a lot of positions that they can shore up. They really need another outside shooter as well. They were not a great three-point shooting team.
But an exciting team, yes. And the draft this year could be one that really moves Denver up in the hierarchy of the NBA, remembering some of the great teams of Doug Moe just a few years ago. So let's go to David Stern and find out what the Nuggets do with the draft of '94.
With the 13th pick in the 1994 NBA Draft, the Denver Nuggets select Jalen Rose from the University of Michigan.
Jalen Rose with his mother and grandmother, and we saw at lunch today, Jalen Rose, I think, wins the Styling Award with that red pinstripe. No question about it. Grant Hill was one of the contenders for the fashion dress, but Jalen Rose...
Bob, when you look at Jalen Rose, there's a couple things. First of all, he's a winner. You can say what you want to say about the Michigan team. They went to the Final Four 2 years in a row. This guy is an outstanding basketball player. He can handle the basketball. He's got size at 6'7". He's bigger. He weighs about 230. He's bigger and stronger across his back and shoulders. Hubie, I think this is a guy that's going to fit right in there. You talk about maybe moving Reggie Williams to the backcourt a little bit right now, and he gives them a lot of flexibility.
Well, this is a choice of taking a great talent, the best talent available. When you play the up and down game like they play in Denver, this type of talent steps right in because he can give you three positions. He handles the ball so well. He's a street player. He has three-point range. He can post up. He has the total package for you, especially if your style is up and down.
Jalen Rose went to Southwestern High in Detroit, 6'6", 231 pounds. And speaking of the 231 pounds, one of the things most impressive about this young man, A, has been his maturity as he's come along as a player, but secondly, his physical size and imposing strength. And he can play all over the floor and certainly could be playing at a 1, 2, or 3, probably a 2 or 3.
You know, he's one of the few college players that I see today that makes a lot of tough shots. You know, he's got the unorthodox style and finish when he gets in the lane. He'll shoot the ball up high and use the glass. He'll shoot it on the move. He'll do all these different creative things, which I think will lend to him being a very, very good NBA player because he can also do it off the dribble.
Well, with the Denver altitude, the fact that they play up and down, this guy is going to step right in, and I think he has a great chance of making a heavy contribution.
Jalen Rose, the third member of the Fab Five from Michigan to be drafted. Weber first, then Howard, and now Jalen Rose. Let's meet him with Craig.
Well, Bob Neal just mentioned that the Fab Five is now a trivia question. Chris Webber established his own identity at Golden State. How do you approach and what do you see as your challenge in Denver?
Well, I have a great opportunity in Denver. They're the best up-and-young-coming team in the league, and I think I fit in well down in Denver. You know, they got Dikembe Mutombo, they got Brian Williams, they got Reggie Williams, so they got a nice team, and I hope I fit in very well, and I think I will.
Doug and Hubie also mentioned the up-and-down tempo that they play, Danielson style of ball. What position? 1, 2, 3? Are you just a player, or do you have a position?
Well, I think I'm just a player, but you know, I think I'll be better at point guard. You know, I think that's where I can help them a whole lot, and that's what I'm going to be looking to do from day one.
One thing people don't know about you, obviously, is the books. 3.4, great point average. How important is school to you, and do you plan to get your degree?
Well, it's very important. Sometimes when you talk about a guy, you know, about how well he plays basketball or something, you never mention academics. So, you know, that was important to me, and I did a good job while I was in school. But now, NBA is my job.
Ready to go to Denver? How does this look with cowboy boots?
Well, I'll find out in a little while.
Okay, congratulations. On the way to Denver. Let's go to Bob.
Jalen Rose, a Michigan Wolverine, that red pinstripe suit, clearing away. He's hands down. The balloting is over. He wins the Fashion Award. I've proclaimed it here. And he said, a little bit surprising, that he was so enthusiastic about saying, I want to play the point guard position, even though he said and admitted that he is a basketball player first. Let's talk about New Jersey. New Jersey Nets changed coaches. Chuck Daly's gone from there. Butch Beard's going to be their new coach this year. And the New Jersey Nets need some help. How about shooting guard? What do you think, Hubie?
Well, I think that the early talk is that they are looking for a guard, and there are a number of excellent big shooting guards available, and some of them who can play both positions. They definitely need a quality backup to Kenny Anderson, and especially since Kenny had to have the operation on the wrist over the summer. So, you know, they are loaded up front with a lot of guys. But you never can have enough front court people. And right now, there are still some very interesting people available. Now, the old coaching staff might have wanted to look for specifically a shooting guard or a guy who can handle. The name always was McKee out of Temple at 6'5", as a point guard or a two guard. Well, it will be interesting to see which way they go, because we do have some nice talent available.
And some big men. Let's find out what they do. Let's go now to David Stern.
With the 14th pick in the 1994 NBA draft, the New Jersey Nets select Yinka Dare from George Washington University.
Well, there you go. As Hubie was talking about, the new coaching staff, they decided to go big. Yinka Dare, remember, he played his first year of basketball in 91-92 at Milford Academy in Milford, Connecticut. Played at George Washington University, very raw, and a lot of people thought his draft stock dropped some because he appeared mechanical and, as you would expect, with his very little experience in some of the exclusive and one-on-one tryouts with NBA teams. But Yinka Dare 6'10 and a half, 271 pounds is the selection. He played for both the Nigerian junior and senior national teams, a native of Kaba in eastern Nigeria. Not only does he speak English very well, though, but also 3 tribal dialects. Here is a young man. Most people think that he would have to be called a project in terms of NBA size and play, Hubie.
Well, I think that might be it. But when you look at the Nets, you have Benjamin as your starting center, and at power forward you have Coleman and Gilliam. You have P.J. Brown and Morris at small forward. What you're doing here is you're ensuring yourself with a big body you have time to develop this young man. Now, we say he's only played the game 5 or 6 years, and at the really organized level, 3 years here in the United States. So look at the size, the shot blocking ability, the rebounding, the brute strength is all there. Plus, he can score. It isn't like they say, well, he's totally mechanical. Well, let's face it, he just has not had the experience. The more catches you get, the more casual and the more success you have.
Yika Dare is with Craig Sager. Craig, you're going to interview him in one of the tribal dialects, Nigerian dialects?
I think I'll test his English. First of all, 3 years of organized basketball in the United States, 1 at prep school, 2 at George Washington. What makes you feel you're ready for this next step, the NBA?
Well, I have a lot of self-confidence. You know, I've been playing the game. I'm improving every day. And I think I can step into the NBA and make a great impact.
Some of the most dominating players in the league are at this position. None better than the guy across the tunnel with the Knicks, Patrick Ewing. What have you been working on? What do you need to work on?
Well, I've been working a lot on my post moves, footwork, a better understanding of the NBA game. And I think if I had more of an outside shot, like a 15-foot jump shot, I think I'll be better off.
What about New Jersey? Does that surprise you at all?
I'm not surprised because, like I said, coming into the drafts, I didn't know where I was going to fall at. But, you know, I'm happy to be there. You know, I've been in Connecticut, which is pretty close to New Jersey, and I think I'll fit in pretty good.
I know you did a lot of traveling. You visited about 9 teams. You're going to have a chance to go back to Africa before you go report to the Nets?
I'd like to, but maybe my parents can come over because I might be trying to settle down and working in training camps and summer camps and stuff like that.
Okay, well, good luck.
All right, thanks a lot.
Well, this year, the Indiana Pacers were that close to winning it all. They're that close to making their first pick. We'll be back. The Indiana Pacers have the next pick as we continue our coverage of the 1994 NBA Draft.